Hello fellow woodworkers and welcome to this week's edition of the Garage Workshop. This week we're going to be righting a wrong and making a wooden storage unit for my drills and clamps. Roll the intro. Okay, so if you haven't seen the video that this is the replacement video of, it was my recent video on creating a tambour. I'll put a link in the corner here for you to see it, but basically it was an epic fail. And as I said in the comments for the people that commented on the video, epic fails are fine as long as you learn from them, and I learned a huge amount from doing that build, which I'll take into future builds. So I wanted to still make the cabinet, but I went for a much more traditional way of doing it. The first thing I did was laid out all of my old bits of plywood, and these are all from my miter saw, from when I did the miter saw rebuild. I've also got a video for that, which I'll link in if you haven't seen that. So these are all the bits that were left. So the first thing I did was get the plunge saw out. I'm not going to say again how fantastic the Parkside plunge saw is. You've heard me say it loads of times. It's fantastic, but I wanted to make sure I got all the edges correct. Now, getting it through the miter saw here was, as you can see, a little bit of a challenge because as much as I'd cut a straight edge on each of these boards, I don't think the alignment on my miter saw is 100% right, and actually spent quite a long time after that sorting it out just slightly off. I then cut the top and the bottom, I'll refer to them as, from the plywood, which were going to be obviously the top and the bottom of the unit, and I just made sure they were exactly the right size. Pretty good. I just had to trim a little bit off the edge there. When I was happy that I'd got all four of the pieces in exactly the right size and the right shape, off camera I did spend quite a bit of time just going over all the measurements again, and with the exception of, you know, 1/8 of a millimetre, they were pretty good. I was pretty happy with how the measurements had turned out, and as you can see there, all lined up nicely together. So the next thing I did was mark off. I just used an offcut here, and actually this, I realised here I made a little bit of a mistake. I used an offcut to get a line, just so I knew how much of each edge I needed to take out with the router. Now, if you haven't seen the video about this router, I will link it. This is my new purchase. It's the Katsu router, and as you can see, it does a really nice job. Very happy with the router because I spent quite a long time picking it, and you'll see in the video if you watch it. Now, that first side that you saw, I did slightly get out at the side, and I think it's due to the fact that the rail that I'm using, I think it's slightly slipped because when I used the exact same rail and the exact same measurement this side, it was absolutely perfect. There was no issues at all. And like I said, the router went straight through the wood, no problem. By the time I got onto the second bit, which is effectively the top or the bottom, I'd got that problem a little bit sorted. I just put the square in, the roof of square, just to make sure it was fine, and then I took it out. I didn't use the dust collection for this because it would have been a bit awkward running up against the rail. As you can see, it does generate quite a lot of sawdust, and when I'd done that, I just took the edge off. There was just a slight bit of pencil line left, so I just took the edge off with the router, sort of freehanding it. I've done the same there, a little bit here, but actually I'd deliberately gone inside the width I needed, and it was actually a perfect fit. I was really pleased. So the next thing to do was to clamp it up. You will see later in this video, when the unit is finished, it looks totally wonky, and I can't understand why, because it isn't. I've measured it, I've put angles on it, I've put my angles inside, but it does look like one side's leaning in. But when I offer it up to the wall, it's perfect on both sides as well. I think it's either an optical illusion or there is a bow in the piece of plywood which makes it look like it's not straight when in fact it is. So I got on the clamps and I got on my right angled plastic. I made these myself actually, the right angled plastic squares that just help to keep everything level. But you can see there it does look wonky, doesn't it? And it isn't, and it might also be the fact that the grooves that are in the top and the bottom may be slightly different sizes, but I did measure them and they were the same. But I was determined to finish this project come hell or high water, having already done it once and it not work. So I put all the clamps in, I got it all nice and straight, made sure it was the right angle. I didn't use those Aldi ones for this one just because I didn't want to have the lifting up from the bottom because the clamps have got quite a curve on them. So the next thing I did was obviously applied the glue. I'm getting to the end of my glue bottle and I'm going to use the Parkside glue bottle next that I referenced back in one of my other videos, my Parkside tool haul video, which you will also link here. I'm doing a lot of linking in videos today, aren't I? But it looks really good, that, and I will try and use it after I've used this glue. So when I popped it in, I just went over with some brad nails. Big shout out for the recent viewers of my video on the staple gun review, the Parkside staple gun review. In particular, I got some really good advice about buying Wickes brad nails. So in this one, I'd also got a separate pack of brad nails that came with the actual air gun. So those are the ones that are in, and they were much, much better. No criticism of Wickes, please don't sue me, but I just don't think they're very good quality, those. I agree with it. So when it was all glued up, as you can see, I'm measuring it, and it is perfect. Absolutely perfect. All the way up, all the way down, all the way around the sides, but it still looks wonky. Next, I got the next sheet, and I put it through the table saw. Firstly, that bit you can see there was just to make sure I got a straight edge, because it did look a bit rough, that piece of plywood. And then I ran it through again, got a straight edge on the other side. So I knew then that these were exactly the right size. They were the right depth I needed, and I wanted them to be the right width. So this bit here, you can see, this is to make the French cleat to attach it to the wall. So I just got a piece of the scrap, measured it the right size. It was 30 centimeters, and I wanted it to fit comfortably inside the storage unit. I didn't want it to be, you know, really tight and pushing it out. I wanted a nice, comfortable fit. And as you'll see, that fits perfectly. Very happy with that. So when I'd got that piece of wood, I then used my angle measurer, and although it says there it's not 45 degrees, it said 43, it actually was. I think it's because of the way the table saw's rocking. So I just put a cut down the middle to get an exact 45 degree angle, as you can see. Very nice there. And pocket holes. We haven't had any pocket holes for a while. So I put some pocket holes in the piece of wood that was going to be fixed into the actual storage unit. Just put 2 pocket holes in either side to keep it nice and firm. I was a bit cock-handed here, and this bit just didn't work. I don't know what I was trying to do here. I was trying to clamp it in and keep it straight, but I just couldn't. Anyway, eventually I gave up on that, and I also gave up on the screws I was using, and I actually used the proper Craig screws that came in the box with the pocket hole jig, and they went in a treat, and it was just the right size, and it's nice and strong and secure in there. So as you can see, the other piece fits. I trimmed a little bit off because I didn't want it to go to edge. I wanted to allow a little bit of room for movement. And the next thing I did was making the shelves. So I cut the distance that I thought exactly it would be to fit. Just off camera there, I'm just doing a little bit of a test fit to fit. And at this point, I realised that despite all my measuring, the actual unit was about 1.5 mm out on one side. And again, I think that's where the plywood that I'm using is slightly bowed. It was about 1 mm out. So this shelf, I just made it literally 1 millimetre thinner. This was my other mistake, really. When I measured the width of the drill to go in, I'd sort of measured the width of the whole of the base rather than measuring the width of the sort of top of the trigger, if you see what I mean, the sort of handle. So as you can see, it sort of flops about and drops down a bit. So when I did the second hole, I cured that and I went inside the lines, and as you can see, much better fit. My old Titan drill that I've gone there, which actually is knackered really, it only works when it feels like it, fits better. So the next thing I did was put some brackets on. Again, I deliberately wanted to put brackets on this. I didn't want to, you know, route out a channel or anything. I wanted to allow for a bit of movement. So I popped in the brackets. I just used an off scrap of wood there to make sure they were level with the actual side of the shelf more than anything else. And this is where I made probably my biggest mistake here, which is when I fixed this in. It was actually very difficult to fix this in, believe it or not. So when I got it in, I sort of got it level. It's a bit hard to see there, and it doesn't look level because of the French cleat and because of the top. But A, I think that's the camera on the floor. And B, I don't think where I'd moved my bench when I was doing this, there's a little lump on the garage workshop floor. So I think it was slightly up. But as you can see, I just leveled it left to so the bubble was left on the line, which is exactly what it would be, and it was done. But what I should have done there is put it up a little bit. It was just a little bit lower than I wanted it to be, and you'll see how in a minute that's a bit of an issue. When I put the body of that in, sorry for my arm there, it didn't fit in quite enough because obviously it's longer, my Aldi drill, so I just made it a little bit longer. But I am getting better with my jigsaw skills, which is one really good thing. So when I made them up about the right length and they fitted and I was happy, off camera I'd just given them a very quick sanding down just to take off some of the hitches. But to be fair, there weren't many really. This one was a bit more difficult because obviously the gap on the left hand side, you can see that the two are offset from the two at the top, and the gap there was a little bit smaller. So I just moved that bracket a little bit to the end, and if it does become an issue, I have got some smaller brackets and I'll just pop one on the end there. But I don't think it will, and obviously when it's in and in place you'll see it. I don't think it's going to be an issue. So knocked it off again with a little bit of sandpaper. This one was a bit of a tighter fit, as you can see, which actually helped knocking it down to get everything the right level. So when I'd got the level on it and I was happy, it was a bit easier to screw these in because obviously it wasn't going anywhere when I was screwing it. Apologies for the in and out of focus there. It wasn't going to go anywhere because it was pretty much wedged in, which was what I was looking for. But overall, happy with how it looks. I am going to paint it, I think, at some point, possibly before I put it on the wall. So, fellow woodworkers, the unit is finished. All I've got to do now is hook it up on the wall, which I'll do this week. I want to spend some time though making sure I get everything exactly straight and level. And I'm just going to give it a very quick sand just before. I might apply a little bit of water resistant finish to it yet. I'm not sure. I know it's not the nicest looking unit in the world, I get that. But actually, it's exactly how I wanted it to be and exactly how I imagined it turning out. So it's a definite win. And on top of the last build I did for this unit, which was an epic failure, here's the link to the series if you haven't seen it, the tambour cupboard. I'm really pleased with how it turns out. It fits perfectly on the wall. The French cleat, of which this is the bit that's going to attach to the wall, works perfectly. So a real success. Thank you so much for joining me this week on the Garage Workshop. If it's your first time here, please can I ask you to subscribe and also like and comment. If you're a regular viewer, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this build alongside the other ones. And don't forget to like and comment also. I'll see you next week on the Garage Workshop. Have a great week, fellow woodworkers.